There now follows a party political broadcast on behalf of the Labour Party.
If you'd said to me at sort of 18, 19, you're going to be a politician, I would have said, forget it. Anything else, anything but being a politician.
Why? On what grounds? Why?
Because I thought politicians were complete pains in the backside.
You okay?
And there is a part of you that constantly wonders whether it is worth staying in politics because of all the rubbish that you have to do. I mean, you just have to do it. You've just got to keep a grip of yourself and hope that your humanity sees you through and in the end, understand why you want to be in it. What I keep saying to people is get behind the image. It's quite difficult to bring people to actually see the type of person you are. My ambition when I was a child was to play football for Newcastle United. That was my greatest ambition. I kept trying to talk my dad into using whatever meagre influence he had with Newcastle United to get me a trial. He never did. Because my dad was very active. I mean, he was active in Tory politics, actually, locally. In fact, they had him lined up, I think, to fight a seat and become a member of Parliament, but then he became very ill, so gave up everything. But we discussed it, and then when I started really being Labour, there was a slight problem for a time, but he never really objected to it. And of course, he's come over to the Labour Party now, so it's all fine. I think my generation is trying to get to a different type of politics, which is rooted in strong values and convictions, but it's not quite left and right in the way that it's been before. I just think that for a whole generation of people, they thought that if they arrived and did well, then you became a Tory. You know, it's like people used to say, well, if you bought your house, if you owned your own home, you were a Tory, which is crazy. So I've always understood, because of Dad, why some people who'd done very well, who'd come up in life and made it on their own, felt the Tory party was the party that was for them because it was the party of ambition and aspiration.
Right. And
that the Labour Party somehow wasn't. And I think, to an extent, I mean, that's what the Labour Party became. It became too stuck in the past, too rooted in saying, well, that's where you are, that's where you stay. Whereas I think today the position's changed around. What I've always wanted with today's Labour Party is to be the party of aspiration, but say, you know, you can have a society where there's ambition without a lack of compassion. And
yeah, because I was going to say, so why aren't you a Tory, basically?
Because I think that in the end, you actually fulfil your I think you fulfil your ambitions better in a society where people have some sense of duty towards other people. Homework? We have a lot of that under Labour. You wait till David Blunkett gets hold of you. He'll be doing a lot of homework. The kids, they keep you grounded because you're seeing all through them and through their friends, you know, what's actually happening.
I was thinking I wanted you to burst into song.
And all the time you just go back to understanding why you're there, why you want to be in it.
When he's on the stage, he's got...
There's a sense in which I just feel people have got to understand things can change. I mean, it's just so daft to think they couldn't be better. I mean, they could be better. You could, if you decided on it, even if you just decided, right, the education system, let's say education and welfare were going to be the only things you worried about, and everything else stayed the same even.
Ask me my 3 main priorities for government, and I tell you, education, education, and education.
The job of being a politician is to change the country in the way that you think is right for the country. I mean, there's no point in being in it unless you want to change things. If all you want to do is do the job, you want to sit in the office behind the desk, sign the papers, there's not much point in doing it. But it's like anything, you know, it's like what we did with the Labour Party. We had a clear series of objectives to modernise the Labour Party, bring it up to date, and we've got to do the same with the country. And it can be done. So when I say education, 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 what that means is not just all the specifics of policy. It means I am going to put every single bit of drive and energy that I've got into changing the education system of this country. For me, education, it's almost like trade union reform was for Margaret Thatcher. For me, education is the big passion. It's the thing that, you know, should drive everything that we're doing, which is one of the reasons why it's so crazy that today we spend more on unemployment than we do on education. If a family's got people in the home and no one's working, how do the kids grow up with any sense of the work ethic, any sense of turning up to work on time, earning a wage? they start living in a different culture and a different society. And when that actually happens, then all the other problems come with it. All the crime and the drugs and the benefits bills. And when I talk about getting young people off benefit and into work, it's not something, I'm not saying they're being uncaring. On the contrary, the only proper, true, compassionate way to care is to say we're going to do something about that.
As a first step, we will implement a program to take 250,000 young people off benefit and into work, funded by a one-off windfall levy on the excess profits of the privatised monopoly utilities.
You say there's a great new Labour Party, it's going to change the world, but, you know, they're just cynical. People are cynical about politics and politicians because they've had a government for, at least for the past few years, that has kept promising things, never delivered them, that has havered on one thing and another thing. And people have almost got to the point where they say, well, what's the use? You're all the same, you know, nothing's ever going to make any difference. And of course, the Tories, in a sense, delighted that, because then people say, well, we might as well just stick with what we've got. But you don't have to stick with what you've got. You know, it's absurd to say that we cannot be better than this.
I want you to tell that Stephen Dorrell, from me, that he's got the National Health Service all wrong. I was in a fortnight, they had no pillows, my daughters had to bring my own pillows, my own blankets, they run out of drugs, and they came to take my blood pressure and they haven't got one that was working. The nurses and the doctors are doing a hard job.
There is a battle for resources in the National Health Service, because we're spending so much money now on increased administration. But it's more than just about the resources in the health service.
Oh, he hurt his leg too. Did his sister do it?
But what's really happened is that the Conservatives don't understand why we created the health service. They don't understand it. The health service, to me, is a living, breathing symbol of what a decent, civilized society should mean in practice. Helping people on the basis of their need, not on the basis of their wealth.
And, you know, if they can contribute to the feeding with us.
When my father became ill when I was 10, 11, and he had a stroke, and all our lives changed after that, really. Well, for the first 24 hours, we weren't sure whether he was going to live or not, so then that was okay, but then when he came back home, he really couldn't do anything, which was very tough for him because he was a public speaker. He was a good public speaker, he was a barrister, he was a good public speaker. So all those things had to stop. He had to give up his political ambitions, and everything changed. Yeah, well, it was I mean, the amazing thing is he did actually rebuild his life. And my mother, of course, she nursed him for 3 years. I mean, taught him how to speak again. And I think when my mother died when I was 21, you got a sense of urgency into your life as a result of that. I mean, do you know what I mean? You suddenly thought, look, it's actually quite a short time you've got, so you better get on, you better get things done, you better do things.
We must awaken and ignite in our people the hope that change can bring. Because the last weapon the Tories have, you know their final weapon? It's despair and cynicism. It's telling people, well, it doesn't matter who's in power because they're all the same. It'll make no difference. Nothing can ever change. Rubbish. Of course things can change. When they say don't let Labour ruin it, I say to them Britain can be better than this.
You see, I couldn't imagine myself actually sitting in Downing Street, let's say, doing the job, having those things going on out there, and not be just like some sort of great galvanizing force driving through the change to make things better. I couldn't imagine doing it.
For more information about James Alexander and the Labour Party, please visit www.time-for-change.org.uk.